we invite Mr. Anil Omanwar, sir. He is an AI expert, cloud solution architect, a data science platform specialist, pre-sales consultant in South Perth, West Australia and Australia. Sir is having 12 plus years of experience in innovation, NLP and ML information visualization, text analytics, design thinking methodology. Sir has worked in many renowned companies like IBM, text analytics, cloud solution, consulting, disclosures, busy ideas, patents, hackathon, machine learning, TensorFlow, AWS, IBM Cloud, Python. So without much ado, I'll request Mr. Anil Omanwar, sir, to enlighten us with the current trends and data science application in various industries. So over to Mr. Anil.
Hello.
Can you all see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yep. So yeah. So good afternoon, all of you. I think it's still morning there. Sorry.
Yeah.
Good morning, all of you.
Good morning.
Yeah. So thanks for the introduction and the opportunity to join this session. So yeah, my name is Anil Omanwar, and I'm basically from India and from the same part, and I also connected to the same area, which is I live in that Rawet area. So I am connected in like Akurdi or that area. So let me start something which is about me. So yeah, so I have, like he said, I have 12 plus or 13 years of experience in this field. So like in innovation, data science, then all this example where we feel like this decision, like all the things which need to be take decision is presented to human, but final decision is taken by a human. So because we know their decision taking capability is much more higher than machine at this stage. So that's why we usually provide this blended AI solutions. So yeah, so you can see I've been worked in many companies and mostly around all these areas where innovation is given at, or data science is my primary interest area. So again, going to the exposure which I had, or areas which I usually worked is more into a cognitive domain where we worked on enterprise assistant, search engine, or I have worked on various banking customers. I'll be sharing one of my interesting use case with banking with you all. Currently, I'm associated with chemical or oil and gas industry. I will explain or give you a quick an introduction or something which is related to that domain. One of you can say a use case, and so there are other areas where I have worked majorly on social media or in insurance or in health and safety. Yep. So that's about me. So what I want to share, people like me or consultant or these people who are currently working with business. So what they are doing now or how they are dealing with this pandemic situation, in COVID fight. So I see there are lots of problem which I also sent in my an introduction where all governments, cities, or all states, or most of the businesses are struggling or fighting with COVID. So what usually many of people like me or other people who are in data science domain, what they are doing majorly, it's what I found these 4 to 5 major areas. So where people are doing chatbots or assistant to any of this firm government or any of these entities. So chatbot development of chatbot. I think you recently had a session with Google bot as well. So it's like one of the major area where people are developing chatbot and making the information available. Second is command center. Command center is basically where correlation between what is happening right now or what they see. So something like that blended or some part of it is giving into that command center. Third area where planning. So most of the businesses, they are struggled with, like every day they do have different business requirement or different guidelines from government, different guidelines from health authority, and daily change scenario. Something like a planning where usually I spend most of time with my customers. So there some of tools which are in this domain are helping them to handle this situation, and some of the application like contact tracing or application which can help businesses, government to deal with this pandemic situation. So in the chatbot, what majorly people are doing right now is providing and quality information or right information or updated information to a user. So, and what we usually do, like I have usually added lots of content related to COVID to my customer or to like in some of the other hospital bots where we have added like what, like if I need to take appointment, what the new steps that I have to take, something like that. So that's where probably like people are adding more chatbot or more information to chatbot or new information. That's like center of like an so chatbots are becoming like a source of truth for or like an first phase of many of the business right now. Then in command center, which I during my explanation, which I said, like we usually like from the text, we try to understand city, country, and then probably like if we got any news, if that news doesn't have like a location, we try to identify location or provide that information, or we segregate the news. Like a hospital is covering something, so they are getting constant guidelines from government. So we try to analyze those guidelines and attach that guideline with something. So that's how like most of this command center are like when they are powered by Watson. Like Watson is one of the IBM tools. So when they are powered with Watson, so it's like mostly like search or intelligence behind data coordination or data association. Any question? Am I going too fast?
Yes.
Yeah, you can continue.
Yes, sir. Continue, sir. Participant, please mute your audio. Participant, it's request, please mute your audio.
So yeah, and one of the next is where like one of my customer where we are doing more of planning. Yeah, so planning usually like when you do planning, there are lots of ups and down or upside down. So when we have to do lots of planning, so every day like because of so my customer is getting new information every day, like new social distancing rule every day or new guidelines every day. So what it impacts, the first thing is planning. Like now today you can't work like 10 people can't work, like you have to reduce down to 50%, or like only 5 people can work in this much facility. So that's how like whatever new input which we are taking, we are predicting, okay, if only 5 people can work, these are like predicted 5 people who can work, or these are the tasks which we need to do to maintain or to get like in the production at 80%, 60%, something like that. So they're probably planning some of our tool which are incorporated or which are dealing with this situation, are trying to do like trying to provide more information or trying to give like based on what if scenario. So what if like I have to start only 2 plants, or I have to get 80% of a production and I have only 7 main. So which task I should start? So it can suggest, okay, you can't get 80%, but 60% is achieved with 7%. So you need to do this task, or allocate your main to this, and these are the probable roles of a person. Like one is like an engineer, another is a welder who can weld this thing. So that there are different scenarios, or there are different things which we usually do, or one of my customer, like where we are investing more time, or we are doing more of this. So one of the other example which one of my teammate is working on this is contact tracing. So contact tracing. So I'll probably come back to this after some time, and probably I'll. So usually we usually take, like when there is like not a virtual session, like in real session, we usually carry out an exercise which I will show. So that exercise usually depicts like, okay, we usually hand over some leaflet to to people or to participant and ask them to read or go through this particular we can say investigation finding or incident report, and ask them to what are the major words which they found interesting. While I'm explaining, you all can read and try to find out if you can find out some interesting word, or you can find out a word which can help in analyzing this report. So that we usually ask people to round or like highlight certain words. So yeah, and there is, I think, second part of it. So that's usually our input, or what we do, like when I discuss about all these use cases, what we do. So our input is nothing but like in plain text, where user has it's part of their daily reporting or things. So when we get as like a plain text, and so that plain text is usually our input, and we spent like months or days to write all these NLP or using these NLP techniques or methodology to understand that data and come up with something. I'll show you what we come up with, but usually what we do, it's like, so if I assume that many of you are aware of like natural language processing methodologies, where we extract like sentences, or we get the part of speech, we identify these are the important phrases or entities out of it. Okay, these are the domain keywords. So something like that. So that's what we usually do. We write some sort of rule. We train models to identify these pattern and come up with something. So this is like one of our intermediate raw product, where we identified, okay, these are the different type of entities or things which we can highlight from this piece of text. So here, and probably here the color code is for human eye to associate, okay, like same color means similar entity, but different like in variation. So I can zoom on some specific thing and say, okay, lifting is nothing but like dark, it's yellow, or working with height or coordination, all those things. So I think I just forgot. So this is an incident report which is generated in one of the plant, where there are people who are working on height, and some machine is dislocated, or it's fall down from certain height to certain height, but there are no injuries. So that's all about this report. But and then, like I said, this is what we identify, or we categorize, or when we analyze that text, it becomes like this. And then probably like in one of our main analysis, or like we have used many Watson tool to convert that intermediate or pre-processed text into something like this. So one of our analysis is bow tie analysis, where we try to identify what are the reasons why this has happened, what are the things which you can control and which has not been controlled, what type of equipment these guys have used, what hazard we are talking about, can you generate a summary out of it, or what was the activity. So this is basically like coming up with the domain terminology, or it's coming up with domain terminology, or saying something, okay, we understood this piece of text, we converted that into unstructured information. So that's basically a journey of like an unstructured text to a structured entity. So after this, what we usually do is, so then like I said, so consider like this is just a piece of text, and for us, this piece of text changes depending on use case. So I'll consider like an contact tracing case. So where this consider this is like an input history or input document of a particular passenger who is arrived from this flight on this date at this time. He was sitting at this row, or he was like having a window seat and something like that. So there is a description, or there is like a history which is created for that person. It's usually fed to something like this, and then after we post processor, we do our analysis, we come up with, okay, this is the person name, the flight name, and all those details has been analyzed, and then we usually push that to a graph where we create a node which has all this information which we extracted is associated with that person. So consider now, like we get thousands of people or thousands of such invoice or such report, and then it becomes like a graph where each node is having information. And after that graph, or like if you consider like simple, even if we put this structured information in Excel and we just put some filter, okay, give me this flight number XYZ, give me the row number which are less than this row or greater than this row. Like I'm considering only adjacent row for this person. This is the day, this is the time, this is the flight number, and these are the adjacent rows. So I can get few records. That's basically one of the way of contact tracing. So usually people use like a graph like in structure, and in most of the time, if your information is not structured, we have to go through such NLP exercise to convert that unstructured text into structured text and then push it to like various systems. So for example, it may be Excel sheet, output may be a database, output may be a graph database, it can be a search engine, anything like that. So I'll take a pause and probably have a question if anyone like have question on this one. Otherwise, I'll move to the next use case.
Yes, sir. Students, please, if you have any question, you can ask. You can use your chat window also, or you can raise your hands and unmute your audio, and you can ask the question. Yes. So you can continue still. There is no question.
No questions?
Yes, sir. Still there is no question. You can continue.
Okay. Yeah. So again, like so when I discuss many of my use case, most of them has involved some bit of NLP which is involved, and some type of like I shown you this methodologies where we get unstructured text and we convert that into unstructured information. So consider like similar techniques which we have used in claim analytics in an insurance. So where there is an accident happened with some cars, and we get incident report or like car accident history, and after that we have to identify, okay, what various entities which I shown in earlier example. So we use that analytics, okay, based on this report, we can say that, okay, there are chances, or based on our historical data, we say, okay, there are 60% chance which we need to approve that claim or disapprove that claim. And then probably an analyst will take a decision, okay, I am approving this particular based on whatever information I have. Right. He may go back to user and ask more information. So the similar techniques which we have like used in many of the search engine or analyzing social media. So I took an example of like whatever example which I have shown. It's from one of my use case, which is working in life science and health and safety case. Yeah, I'll move forward with another interesting use case which I worked on, and that use case is on banking. So where I was working with a banking customer, it's like in Singapore, Malaysian banking customer, and they were facing lots of issue in their call center. So I think many of us, including me or like all of us, has waited more than half hour on call, like logging your some ticket or logging your some issue with a bank saying, okay, my credit card is not working, or I try to enter my correct PIN 3-4 times, but my card is blocked or something like that. So there are various issues which we are trying to tackle, and so we delivered a solution to them, and later that solution also got patented, and we have that idea like protected. So this solution is more where we have used like not only NLP machine learning, but also there are certain different techniques which we have used and try to provide uh, more informative way or more informative solution to an user. So I'll go to next slide, and probably I'll try to show what's the architecture, and I'll try to explain what we did there. So the solution which we provided, it's called predetermining context of a discussion for a telecaller to provide a dedicated service. And what that means. So it means when a user is calling, so when he entered his calling from his own mobile, so we usually know, or usually bank has a process to identify the user. Okay, you are XX user, then they will ask you to put down your password or like an online PIN and something like that. So to identify, okay, that's your entity. So whenever user has identified its entry, so our system also parallelly works and it tries to get whatever information for that user, and it gets in various chunks. So one of them is like, what are the temporal thing or what are the recent thing happened for this user? So he tried to use some card in some ATM, or he did like a high value transaction or something like so. That's the temporal aspect. So in last 1 hour, what that user did, or what are the default, or what are the edge cases for that user. So something like you have exceeded your some limit by 30%. So something like that's all this we call that as like an outlier cases. So we also analyze those outlier cases and try to provide an like when that user is calling, and we analyze that information, and because we identified, okay, this user has entered 3 times wrong password and he is calling like after half hour to this, so he might be calling because of this, so let's reduce his option like out of like from 52 to 10 or 3 or 2, something like so. So I go to an architecture diagram or like a simple flow where user is sort of confused and he has already entered his wrong password 3 times and he is calling a bank. So here, like if you see that yellow dotted line where the real-time knowledge engine or analysis engine will identify that and push that information to analyst. And so before he explained his problem or he picked up that as an option, analyst will start from that point and he'll say, okay, I understood that you have entered or you are in this ATM, or it will try to grab that information or try to understand problem. Okay, you have used credit card which is ending with 3742. Okay, or you have used this debit card. So you have whatever password you have entered is expired or is not. So do you like me to reset or this, something like that. So the conversation will start from that moment or for that temporal aspect of a user. So we have, like when we have delivered this solution, I will take another example where this similar system is used to capture a fraud. So where for example, a user is calling or user is in the bank and he wanted to check something, and we understood, okay, in last 1 hour he did, and so from his account there were 2 transactions or 1 transaction, high value transaction happened, and not his regular countries of transfer. So he has transferred to some let's say European country, which he usually transport to to US or India only. So one of the European country, he has 2 high value transaction. So based on this, based on this information, so when user or analyst or even a bank employee also want to talk to him, he will have all this information and steps to do what next. So with this, they can stop the further transaction, or they can do other things. So all those things has been usually whatever system we develop, like over the span of 1 year, whatever we have developed is evolved, and it's trying to, like, I think, like when we started, the average waiting time of those customer for that bank was 37 minutes. So it's ranging like more than half hour. And at the end of, like in one, when we deployed and it get mature, that reduced down to like sometimes it's a single digit or sometimes it's 2 digit, which is like 12 or 17 minutes. So that's basically like when we want to reduce down the, or when they have measured the performance of the system. Any question?
Yes, students, please ask questions if you have any. Please raise your hand. No, sir, you can continue.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah, I'll go to next slide, and in that probably I'll give like two basic thing which I learned. Like, so these are the basic two tips. If I would be like a student, or so if I was at your place at this time, so these are the two things which I would do. So one is like thinking forward. So if like I am student now, and based on whatever experience I had or whatever problem I have faced in my career or in various cases, what I will do, I will think forward. So I'll take an example what I mean by that think forward. So for example, if you are like in one of your class, you got to know, okay, there is this like a random forest is one of the machine learning algorithm. So then probably I'll go and I'll try to see where people are using this random forest, how this random forest is getting used in real life, or where people are implementing it. So that's basically thinking forward. If I will be joining some company, and if I've been asked some problem, where will I use this particular piece of technique? So with that, what will happen? So I'll tell you what problem we usually face. So if we get a problem, we try to think what type of technique which we already learned can use or can solve this problem. If not, we go and we search like in some aspect of a problem, try to learn this new technique and try to implement. It's more of like when we are like in breakdown sort of maintenance, or breakdown where we don't know anything and we go and learn and increase our knowledge and then try to solve a problem. So with that, if you already think forward, and if you know, okay, this is a technique where if this type of problem is came in my life, or if I have to solve this type of problem, this is a good technique. And with that, probably you'll get to know much more different aspect of that particular method, or you will learn that not like in bookish way, you'll learn that practically. So that's what I mean, like when I say like think forward. So this is one of the example where like most of student or most of the things, when like this is example where user want to clear his driving test. So he is trying to do that 8, like in India, what we do, we try to learn that 8 or drive along that path. So that's basically like when you learn only to clear something or only to pass your exam. But when I say think forward, basically you will try to, let's say once you already know now you can pass that exam, or you can drive that 8. Now you will think if there is rainy situation, how to drive, or like that. That's what you have to think, or you have to explore those situations and in yourself. So that's one of the thing which probably you should do when you are learning, or you're still like in the era where you learn something and you want to implement, like in future you want to implement those things in your life. The second thing is like craft your own tools. So what I mean by that, so there are lots of tool available in market. So when you are young, like when you are still student, you try to craft your tool. Like you find out these tools, these are useful, this is the problem, these are the tools which I know that I know this tool, and you can convert that tool to your own, like changing something and make it ready, or put it in your toolbox. So whenever there is a problem or situation arise, you know which tool to pick and how to solve it. So people spend more time in, like when they want to, or they grab another code and dig into it and then probably spend more time. So if you craft your own tool, or if you have your toolbox ready with your crafted tool, you're more likely to use it in a better way. So yeah, and again, like I'll take an example of one of the movie which many of you has already seen. So yeah, that's like an Thanaji movie, which says the warrior who crafts his own sword, he trusts twice on it than anything else. So yeah, I'll take a pause. Probably, I think there are some questions.
Yes, yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Students, we are almost at the end of the session. So if you have any question, you can ask. You can raise your hand. Any participant? You can also use your chat window for question answer. Dear participants are requested to mute your audio. Yes, any question from student side? No, sir, there is no question. Yes, sir.
So that's like I think I am also at end of my slide, and if anyone wants to contact me, they can use the coding team or mail me. Probably I'll help them.
Yes, sir. Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your this particular session, which is a really very wonderful and knowledgeable session. We will definitely, it will be a grateful pleasure for us to listen you again in our future events also. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Now